Okay, so we will these are the agenda in today's session. So we are going to discuss about the architecture, how we are going to deploy Citrix CVAD service on Google Cloud, and what are the models available to deploy Citrix CVAD service. And then we are going to cover on what are the components required from Google side to deploy the CVAD service. And these are the main topics which you are going to discuss. What is Google projects and what is VPC, shared VPC, peering, firewall, routes, and then the IAM roles. So, and then we'll talk about a VPN and GCP interconnect. And then we'll talk about cloud DNS and compute engine, disk and cloud net and encryption. Okay, we are going to cover all the concepts in detail with the live demo. Okay, so at the end of each topic, we will have a quick discussion related. If any queries you guys have, you can turn on your camera, or you can turn on your mic, and you can highlight, or you can put it in the chat also what all the doubts you have. Okay, so we will give you, like, we will arrange 5 or 10 minutes sessions on each after the after each topic. Okay. Yeah, so we'll start with the architecture. So Citrix virtual apps and desktop service, you can deploy in Google Cloud in 3 different model. Okay, so the first model, which is called as cloud forward design pattern. So in this architecture, as you can see, this is your on-prem infrastructure. So here you will have your Active Directory and your traditional servers, etc. And here is the Google Cloud platform, where you will have your computes such as the Citrix virtual apps and desktop workload. When I say workload, it will include your VDIs, and it will include your cloud connectors, and it will include your fast server. So we'll cover what is fast server, what is cloud connector in detail. So on a high level, you will in the Google Cloud, you will host, from the Citrix point of view, you will host your VDS and your cloud connector, as well as fast server and file server to store the user profiles. Okay, this is related to the Citrix components. And when it comes to your infra components, you will have your domain controller and your DNS server, etc., which will have a sync with your on-prem, either through VPN or something called interconnect, that I will cover in the later stage. So then you'll have a cloud, Citrix cloud service, which is also sitting in the cloud, which is basically sitting in Azure cloud. We manage it, is completely managed by Citrix, where you will have your CVAD service, which will help you to deploy the VMs, and then you will have a gateway service, so which will help you to deliver remotely your virtual apps and desktop. It is a it is a it is kind of a NetScaler gateway, you can say, the cloud version of NetScaler gateway. Then you have a workspace. This is nothing but, you know, you can say the version of storefront, which is used to deliver your store apps and desktop, etc. Then the Citrix Analytics, which is normally used for monitoring. And there are many more services, like you'll have fast server, that is used for single sign-on if you use any SAML, Azure AD authentication. And you'll have a WEM service, which is used for optimization, user profile management, and many more things you can achieve using WEM. So traditionally all these components are used to deploy in on-prem, but Citrix has all the service in the cloud itself, so you no need to deploy anything in on-prem. Okay, so basically in the on-prem, as I told you, you will have cloud connector, and then you will have VDS. Okay, so why it is cloud forward design pattern? Because you are deploying purely in the cloud, so all your Citrix components purely in the cloud. Okay, your workload, your connectors, everything in the cloud. You don't have anything in on-prem. Okay, and all the services, Citrix related services, are in the cloud. Okay, so that is why it is called cloud design, cloud forward design pattern. So entirely it is in the cloud. Okay, nothing is in the on-prem. This is the first model which is best suitable for the customer who are deploying CVAD service newly. So they doesn't have any existing farm and they want to implement Citrix CVAD service with the GCP, then this model is best suitable for them. Okay, so now let's go to the second design pattern. Okay, this is hybrid design pattern. Hybrid design pattern, everything is similar. You have your on-prem here, and then you will have a GCP. Uh, Here you will have your cloud service, which is hosted the Citrix cloud service, where you will have your CVAD and workspace, etc. And you might have seeing here Citrix gateway is missing, right? So that is where hybrid approach comes. Hybrid approach means you partially deploy some of the components, some of the management components of Citrix in the cloud. Okay, for example, in this diagram, you can see Citrix ADC deployed and Citrix storefront is deployed, right? So in the previous, if I go to previous, you don't see Citrix storefront and Citrix gateway in the Google Cloud. It is in the Citrix cloud. Now in the second hybrid model, it is in the Citrix, it is in the GCP cloud. You can see your Citrix gateway and Citrix storefront. So you might have a question, why we are deploying Citrix gateway and Citrix storefront here? Okay, why not we cannot use the one which is hosted in the cloud itself? The answer for that, why we are going to use Citrix gateway is, for example, you're sitting in somewhere in China. So in China, you don't have Citrix gateway POP available near to it, if I remember correctly. So for example, let's say you are in China and you are using for you the nearest POP maybe in South India. I'm not sure where the Citrix gateway POP is available in South India, but for an example, so if you are using a South India, that is Mumbai or Chennai, wherever it is deployed, so there will be a latency. Okay, so your workload will be in China, but you're using the gateway and your users also in the China. So let's put it in this way. Let's open the whiteboard. So for example, you are in China. Okay. So for you, the nearest available POP, that is Citrix gateway POP, is in South India. For example, let's say South India. Okay. So you have your GCP cloud here and you have your office here. So you will deploy your VDS in the China region itself. Okay, but you don't have Citrix gateway in China region, because Citrix gateway, I think it's available only in 16 region. I'm not sure the number. You can check in the Citrix official site. Okay, so it is in UAE, in our region we have it, and India, I think in India also we have it. And so for them, the nearest region, for example, if they choose South India to deploy their, to select their POP. So whenever the user sitting in China, so first the connection will go to India, because this is the POP, nearest POP. From here, it will get again proxy to your workload, GCP workload. Okay, so ultimately you're making it to, the traffic is going to India, then again going back to your China cloud region, that is GCP region, so that definitely the user will face latency. Okay, so unnecessarily you're routing here, from here you're routing back to the GCP. So in this scenario, what you can do is you can deploy NetScaler gateway in the GCP itself. Okay, so for example, you deploy your gateway here itself in the cloud, it's GCP cloud itself. Okay, NetScaler gateway. So now what will happen, the user in China, he will connect to China gateway itself, for example, like which is hosted in your cloud itself, and locally it will provision the VDA connection. So in this use case, we will use hybrid approach. Okay, so this is where we are going to deploy Citrix ADC and storefront in the cloud itself. Okay, so we are managing this storefront and gateway as a customer. And one more advantage here is, if you use your cloud gateway, so you have to use the FQDN to connect is customer name .cloud.com. Okay, you cannot use custom names, but Luckily, Citrix has released the feature which is currently in public preview. So you can activate that. Now you can use, even though if you use, you can use your own name as well. Earlier it was not possible. Earlier you have to use xx.cloud.com to access your VDI workspace. Okay, so now you can use, you can, for example, you have xyz.company.com. So you can use the xyz.company.com domain name to access the Citrix Cloud Service. Earlier, you have to use xyz.cloud.com. So that is defined, predefined. So you cannot able to change. But now the option is there. You can change it, and you can use your own name to access your VDA. But still, it is in a public preview. So you can go to the documentation and you can read about it. So okay, this is related to the hybrid approach. Okay, so hybrid is nothing but some components you will manage and some components will still managed by Citrix itself. Okay, and the third approach is cloud migration design pattern. So cloud migration design pattern, this is suitable for the customer. They already have the Citrix workspace environment in their on-prem. Okay, so let's say you have a company, you are already running Citrix CVAD on-prem, and you have a new business, and that requires VDA to be provisioned, and you don't want to invest anything on the on-prem, and you want to invest, you want to go in the cloud. So in that scenario, you can go with this approach where you will deploy your additional workload in the cloud and some workload in the on-prem. Okay, so that is why it is called migration. So slowly later you can migrate, phase wise you can migrate your on-prem workload to the cloud. So this is suitable for such customers. Okay, here again, here you can keep your storefront in the cloud if you want, or you can deploy your ADC also in the cloud, and also you can integrate your cloud resource in the on-prem as well. What does it mean? So for example, you have a CVAD service, CVAD on-prem. Okay, so now you have, for example, now you have 500 users here. Okay, now this is purely in on-prem. Okay, now you're going to deploy CVAD service. CVAD service on GCP, or for example, any cloud. You can say in this example, I will take GCP. So you have some 100 VDAs deployed. Okay, here you have some 500 VDAs deployed. So here in on-prem, you used to access storefront, right? Storefront or your gateway to access your applications and publish an application. So when you access your on-prem gateway or on-prem storefront, you will presented with desktop and application which is hosted in on-prem. Okay, so now you have your 100 VDAs here, and you want to migrate. For example, I'll take 500 itself. Okay, so you want to migrate this user face wise. Okay, and you don't want to interrupt the user experience. Yeah, so what you can do, there is something you can integrate this, this VDIs in the on-prem storefront itself. Okay, so you have something called Cloud Connector that I'm going to discuss later. So you will integrate your Cloud Connector in the on-prem storefront and on-prem NetScaler gateway, so that what will happen, the same user, for example, I'm the on-prem user. I used to have one desktop which is hosted in on-prem. Okay, so when I integrate my Cloud Connector in the on-prem storefront and NetScaler, and the next day if I come and log in, I can see two desktops in the on-prem NetScaler or on-prem storefront URL. I can see two VDAs. One is deployed from your on-prem and one is deployed from your cloud. Okay, so that your migration will be very easy. Okay, so you can disable your on-prem assignment, and automatically user can launch the cloud one, so that there is no downtime or there is no user experience difference for the user. For a user it is very seamless, and he will for him it is just a desktop, like whether like he doesn't know whether it is delivered from cloud or on-prem. For him it's a very seamless. So this is very useful when you do the migrations. Okay, so you can integrate your cloud desktops to on-prem NetScaler or on-prem storefront, and you can deliver them through the same URL which customer is using. Okay, so this is related to the migration approach. Okay, so in the migration approach, yeah, so this is how the migration approach working. So let me go through once those, like I believe most of them aware how the Citrix cloud architecture works, but if you are not aware, so I will quickly go through what all the components included, what is the architecture, how it is working. Okay, so for example, this is your Citrix on-prem, CVAD on-prem. Okay, so in the on-prem you'll have your studio, you'll have your director, your license server, and what else you have? Maybe SQL server you have, and you have your storefront, you have your gateway, NetScaler gateway. Okay, so when I talk about and you'll have your workload which is hosted in on-prem or any cloud, I'll take on-prem because cloud is not supported now to integrate in on-prem. Okay, so this is your hypervisor. Here you'll have your VDA. Okay, so in CVAD service, for example, this is the CVAD service. Okay, so we are lifting all the components and we are putting it in the cloud. Okay, Citrix cloud, so that in our on-prem you're not going to manage anything, and entire component is just replaced by one server, one component called cloud connector. Okay, so cloud connector will act as a bridge between your on-prem and the Citrix cloud. Okay, so all the connections from your on-prem and between the Citrix cloud will get proxied through the cloud connector. Okay, so this is just a pure and outbound connection. So let me put it in this way. So you have your cloud, that is Citrix cloud. By the way, this is in the backend hosted in Azure. Okay, so here you will have your on-prem, you will have your VDS, and you have cloud connector server. Okay, cloud connector. So you will just allow an outbound connections on 443. Okay, just an outbound, you're not allowing anything inbound. So the moment you say outbound, the GSO team or whatever the info security team doesn't have any problem. Okay, so because you're not allowing anything inside your network, you're just allowing your outbound 443. That too you can allow it through proxy also. So if you pass it over proxy, then there is no security concern at all. Okay, so my best practice is allow the outbound connection through proxy. Then from Citrix cloud you can get visibility to your Active Directory and your workload, everything. So all the request will get handled by the cloud connector to your on-prem. Okay, for example, this is your Active Directory. So the cloud connector will have visibility to your Active Directory. So the user provisioning, permissions, etc., everything gets served from the cloud connector with the Active Directory or whatever the workload behind. Okay, this is how the Citrix cloud works. Okay, so you're hosting all the management layer here, including your SQL server, etc., everything. And on-prem, you'll have only your workload, that is VDS plus cloud connector. Okay, so this is the architecture. In on-prem, you'll host cloud connector and VDA. Sometimes, for example, if you want to integrate with a single sign-on solution like Azure Active Directory, etc., then you have to deploy some additional components called fast server. Okay, federated authentication server, which will provide you single sign-on behavior, single sign-on experience to your workloads. That will cover maybe if time permits at the last in details what is fast, how it is working. Okay, so now I will now we are before jumping into the new topic. So guys, any doubt related to the architecture and how it works? So if you have any questions, you can highlight now. Yeah. Any questions?
You said cloud connector with the outbound 443. So any specific URL we have to open with the network team, or is it like the only it will go with the when we are doing the connector installation, it will ask the information like that.
No. You have to allow for to certain URLs that
Okay.
is documented in the Citrix
Okay.
article. So basically, you
Okay.
have to. It's best practice you allow star.cloud.com. So it will include all the cloud related Citrix cloud related URLs. But for a proper information, refer to
Mm.
Citrix document. They have a very good articles where they have mentioned what all the URLs required. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, thanks. So one
Otherwise,
thing also.
if
Yeah.
you did not allow it, then your cloud connector installation will get failed.
Okay. So once we do the cloud connector, actually, what is in the backend happened? Like, can you just put some lights there? Like I understand like code in it will ask and all that stuff, but what is happening in the backend? Like,
So yeah, we will go through the installation part in the at the end. So cloud connector basically it will act as a bridge between your on-prem and the cloud. Okay, for example, from your cloud, if you want to access, let me go to the first page, first one. Yeah. So if you want to access, cloud connector, it will act as a bridge between your on-prem or not on-prem, sorry, on your public cloud and the Citrix cloud. Okay. So in your Google Cloud, you may have your Active Directory and you have your workload, etc. Right? To contact from Citrix Cloud to contact all those things. So this will act as a bridge. Okay. So all the information between your cloud connector and your public cloud or hypervisor, on-prem hypervisor will get sorted through the cloud connector. So if you in details what is the actual thing happening, what all the things which is responsible for cloud connector, there is an article you can refer. But yeah, on a high level, this is you can just remember this is a bridge between your Citrix cloud and the public cloud or your on-prem hypervisors. Okay, location.